How the Grinch Caught COVID. Every Who down in Whoville followed guidelines a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated COVID the whole lockdown season. Now, please don't ask why. They infringed on his freedom. It could be, he thought, going out was his right. It could be, perhaps, that his mask was too tight. But I think the most likely reason to choose may have been that he thought the disease was a ruse. And whatever the reason, his mask or Fox News, he stood there in quarantine, hating the Whos. Then he growled, with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, "I must find some way to stop more lockdowns from coming." For tomorrow he knew all the Who employees would boot up their laptops and sign into Teams, and they'd get down to work approving vaccines. That's one thing he hated, those scary vaccines. Then the Whos, young and old, would sit down on a Zoom, and they'd Zoom, and they'd Zoom, and they'd Zoom, 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 Zoom. They would talk about life and show off their Zoom rooms, which was something the Grinch simply refused to do. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who COVID plague, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this charade. Why, for almost a year I've put up with it now. I must stop these sheeple from sheeping. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. The Grinch laughed to himself. I know just what to do. And he made a quick blonde wig and Who shoes. And he chuckled and clucked. What a great Grinchy scheme. With these fluvogs and glasses, I look just like Bonnie. Then he made up a website and a YouTube account. And he streamed video as he flew down the mount. You don't have to stay home, went his Bonnie Grinch whisper. Dr. Henry was good, but he was much Grincher. Then he opened the restaurants and bars that they missed, and he found 17 different strangers to kiss. He played some Who hockey, took a Who spin class too. He even ate lunch at Adamson's barbecue. He told them this virus is no more of a threat than the flu, and he founded a new Danish mink petting zoo. Then he slithered and slunk, and he crept fiendishly around the whole town, and he stole PPE. He took all their masks and their hand sanitizer. He unapproved vaccines from Moderna and Pfizer. His last stop was the little Who long-term care home, where he told all the seniors to get off their phones. And he set up their walkers and pushed wheelchairs. No bubbles, no circles, share droplets, who cares? And when he was there, he saw a small Who. Old Cindy Lou who was 102. She stared at the Grinch and she said, Bonnie, why? Why are you putting our lives at risk? Why? But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little granny, the fake Dr. Grinch lied. The communists want you to all stay inside. It's their nefarious plot to keep our freedoms in check and put digital tracking chips in our necks. Then he packed up his sleigh with the masks and the gowns, packed it with face shields he'd stolen from town. 3,000 feet up to the top of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. They'll thank me for this, he was Grinchishly humming. They're finding out now that no COVID is coming. Then he paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his chest, and he coughed. And he thought, I'm not feeling my best. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say, the Grinch's small lungs filled with fluid that day. He was rushed down the mountain into Who ICU and was hooked up to ventilators, IVs, and tubes. And he puzzled for hours, though his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't thought of before. Maybe COVID, he thought, isn't all ballyhoo. Maybe COVID, perhaps, is much worse than the flu. He hadn't stopped lockdowns. In fact, they'd extended. And worst of all, he was the one who would spread it. It spread through his droplets, and in stadium stands, it spread because the Grinch never once washed his hands. It spread without limit as he'd taken their masks, and now no one knew how long lockdowns would last. And the minute his swab said he wasn't contagious, and he could breathe on his own without oxygenation, he went back to his cave, and he set up his room. And he himself, the Grinch, downloaded Zoom.